I can't tell you how many times over the course of the last probably week or so, how many times I have read a pundit say college football is broken. College football is broken. College football is broken. College football is broken. College football is not broken. College football is inconvenient right now. That doesn't mean it's beyond repair. It doesn't mean it's even needs repairing. There are some adjusting that needs to happen, and I don't know how much of that is realistic and how much of that is actually possible to get done, but it's inconvenient. It's absolutely inconvenient, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. The coaches knew that when the transfer portal was opened, that it was going to go this way. They knew that it was going to be quasi free agency in college football. And there are fans who will tell you that they dislike the transfer portal, and that's part of the reason why they're no longer watching. They just don't like there's a lack of loyalty, blah, blah, blah. I don't buy that because it's the same thing you do in your job, in your career. It's the same thing virtually every other sport offers. I've never bought the idea that people like college football better than the NFL because the student athlete aspect. That they like the fact that the kids aren't paid and that they have to go to class and all of those things. I've never bought that is the reason that so many people love the sport. I don't buy that. But coaches knew when the transfer portal was opened like this that it was going to lead to exactly what it has become. And I think it's one of those, like, you're willing to put up with the crappy aspects of it for what benefits come with it. And that's kind of part and parcel to how it's worked out, is that coaches might hate the fact that some people that they've put countless hours, time, money into to develop leave for greener pastures. If you're doing it right, you're getting it back in other ways, in other guys. But the transfer portal right now sucks. The timing sucks. The early signing day period, the timing sucks. The recruiting advantage, like, everybody wants the early signing day in theory, until you end up having to fire coaches and make decisions kind of while the season is still going on to salvage recruiting classes. The transfer portal window sucks because you've got teams playing in bowl games that are decimated by transfers, by guys opting out to go to the NFL, all coinciding with coaches swapping jobs. And you didn't really see a whole lot of it this year. There weren't a bunch of high-profile coaching exits and hires in the 2023 carousel. It just didn't really come to fruition. But it comes at a really bad time on the calendar. Now, I'm not here to pontificate on the importance of bowl games because I don't think they are all that important at the end of the day, unless you are going into next year one of the 12 teams in the college football playoff. If you are going to try to sell me on the idea that it is imperative for some school to perform in the Quick Lane Bowl, I'm just going to have a strong reaction to that, where, like, I just don't buy that you're going to really gain a whole lot of that from an institution perspective, from an athletic department perspective, from a football program, certainly. But the idea that that's super important to some program, I just have a hard time believing. But if you're going to do it, you need to do it right? Like, that's kind of been the age-old adage. I and probably you have lived your life. If you're going to do something, do it right. So if you're going to have bowl games, you need to do it right. You need to have teams playing at full strength. You need to have guys not opting out. At least if you're opting out for the NFL draft, I don't care. If you're opting out because you're afraid George is going to kill you, that's a different animal. And I would have a problem with that. There's a difference between protecting your business interests and we're going to lose, so I'm not showing up anyway. Ugh. A few years ago, I was announcing a high school basketball game where one school was like the 23 seed and they were supposed to play the number 1 seed. And the final score was, I think, 109-35. And 2 guys who had played varsity basketball that entire season showed up for the team that got killed. And basically the coach was like, yeah, we had a bunch of guys said, I'm not getting on the bus riding an hour to get killed on a Saturday. I'm just giving up the Saturday. I'm not giving up my Saturday. That's a problem. That's a gigantic issue. And if you are a Division I college football player and that's your thought process, that's a problem. But it's all inconveniently timed right now. And I don't know that there's a way to fix it. Like, the transfer portal has to open during bowl season, I think, because you have to get registered for school that starts either this week or next week. And you can't pretend as if you have to have the kids in school. And the only way to around that is basically an IOU or I swear to God, I'm going to go to college here, and open the transfer portal in after the bowl season has ended with I swear I'm going to go to school here, but you just got to trust me that I'm going to stick to my word and I'll enroll in the spring or I'll enroll in the summer. It just generally doesn't work that way. And it would be a complete charade to let football players practice at a school that they don't attend, because you got to keep up the student athlete bit, right? We've got to continue to pretend that are the upper echelons of the sport. And make no mistake about it, in the MAC, Sun Belt, Mountain West, Conference USA, American, etc., the overwhelming majority of those players are student athletes. In the Power 5 and the upper echelons of the Power 5, you're football players. We can pretend as if that's not the case, but it is. They are athletes first and students second. Coaches can go through the charade of, we make sure they go to class, we make sure they get good grades, blah, 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 but there's a reason like 40 dudes are in the same major. And there's a reason that I can't tell you the last time a college football player that didn't want to be academically ineligible wasn't academically ineligible. So you have to keep up the charade that these are student athletes. So you can't have guys going through spring practice at a school that they do not attend. Like, you can't say like, I'm going to transfer from USC to Oklahoma and I'm going to go to class at USC and practice for Oklahoma during spring ball because we altered the transfer portal dates, so you weren't able to get out of your current situation until after bowl season. Like, that's just really inconvenient, but it is the reality of the sport, right? Like, it's just where the calendar falls. Would it be great to say, hey, you can't get in the portal until January 12th? Yes. But when school has already begun at wherever the hell you're trying to transfer to, that is a problem. So I don't know what the fix is. I just know that the idea that because, like, the fact that, like, bowl season has been ruined. Okay. I mentioned it the other day where I think bowl season is the same thing as gold or NFTs. Like, the only reason it has any value is because we say it has value. And the second that people agree that it doesn't have value, it no longer has value. And so if nobody puts value on the bowl season, the idea that because for 100 years, the Cotton Bowl, the Rose Bowl, the Orange Bowl, the Peach Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, the Sun Bowl, whatever the case may be, was really important. Yeah, and so were like horse and buggies and rotary phones. But we kind of advanced past that. And that's okay to admit. The sport is not broken. You can look at, and I don't like to use the TV ratings as like, here's case in point. 27 million people watched Alabama and Michigan on New Year's Day. 27 million people. It's the highest non-NFL sporting event since 2018. More people watched Alabama, Michigan than watched the Olympics, than watched the Kentucky Derby, than watched whatever sporting event you want to, at least in America, insert here. More people watched Alabama, Michigan than that since 2018. So while you might think that the sport is broken, and why Kirby Smart can say, like, it hurt me more than it hurt you to kick your ass, Florida State, I don't believe that the sport is in this horrendous place where it's crossed the Rubicon and there's no coming back and it's broken beyond repair. It's not. It's inconvenient. And does inconvenience suck? Yeah. Yeah, it does. Inconvenient has always sucked and always will suck. But that doesn't mean that it's the worst thing you'll ever see. It's beyond repair. Oh my gosh, doom and gloom. That is not true. I'm certain, a way to figure out the calendar to entice players to still play in the bowl games. I've said before, the idea that NIL money is going to be the bowl game savior, I don't buy. Don't buy that if you were sitting out because you are valuing your NFL draft stock, that Duke Mayonnaise paying you $20,000 to play in a game, and they're not going to play. They're not going to pay all 85 scholarship players $10,000 to play in a bowl game. Like, it's just not. That's not in the budget. So we can throw that out right now. And I don't need, is Prudential going to pony up a boatload of money for somebody to play in the Rose Bowl? Probably not. So that ship, like, we can pretend that ship exists. It just doesn't. ESPN's not going to pay Keon Coleman $10,000 to play in the Orange Bowl. It's just not going to happen. Because that opens up a whole new can of worms that I don't think anybody, like, you think ESPN runs college football now, wait till they're paying kids to play in games on their network. It's just not going to happen. But college football is inconvenient. It's not broken. And I think words matter, especially at a time now where, like, people use words incorrectly all the time. Words matter. College football is not broken. It's inconvenient. And when you are used to the deck being kind of stacked in your favor, or things being somewhat easier for you than other programs, etc., inconvenient can seem like brokenness. But that ain't the case. And I think we need to pump the brakes on that before we move farther. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. I appreciate you making us a part of your day. However it is, wherever it is you're doing so, we certainly appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the college football content we're pumping out here at Saturday Glory. If you are listening on the podcast feed, drop a 5-star review. It goes a really long way in helping out the channel. Back at it tomorrow. Be chatting more about the Michigan Wolverines and how they took a trend, flipped it a little bit, and used it to their advantage to get to the national championship game. We'll talk about that tomorrow, right here on the Daily Huddle with Saturday Glory.